Hello there, and welcome back to another video. As the final chapter of the prequel trilogy, Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith went through extensive development with numerous ideas and story elements planned, revised, and ultimately removed before release. Today we're counting down the top 5 things we almost got or didn't get in Revenge of the Sith, all drawn directly from the Star Wars archives. In at number 5, we have Shaak Ti's death. Shaak Ti is known in the Star Wars universe for having an infinite amount of deaths. She is constantly dying. She dies in The Force Unleashed, in LEGO Star Wars, and Yoda even has a vision of her death in the Clone Wars. In Revenge of the Sith alone, she has 2 different deaths, both of which are deleted scenes. One is her canon death, where Anakin kills her during Order 66 when she is meditating. The other is this version. In this iteration, Shaak Ti is on Coruscant protecting Palpatine when he is captured by General Grievous, and she is taken prisoner as well. Aboard Grievous's ship, Anakin and Obi-Wan discover her surrounded by Grievous and his bodyguards. She apologizes to Obi-Wan for failing, before Grievous kills her in the same manner Anakin does in her canonical death. The scene was removed largely due to timing. The opening scene of Palpatine's rescue was originally an hour long. It needed to be 20 minutes, so many scenes were cut out. I don't think a great deal was lost by removing this moment, other than an early demonstration of Grievous's brutality. That said, his design alone already communicates that threat quite effectively. In at number 4, we have Han Solo being on Kashyyyk and helping Yoda. In early drafts of the film, a 10-year-old orphaned Han Solo was living on Kashyyyk with Chewbacca. This idea of Han Solo being orphaned and raised by Wookiees on their home planet was first raised by George Lucas at a story conference back in November of 1977. Young Han Solo finds part of a transmitter droid, and that would be the key to helping Yoda locate General Grievous on Utapau and sending Obi-Wan to locate him. After reading this back, George rejected it, saying, "This is stupid. I was being a smart aleck, tying things together and being a little too clever for my own good." For what it's worth, it would be cool to see, like a younger Han Solo, and that was how, he met Chewbacca, being orphaned and, hanging out with Chewbacca on Kashyyyk. It wouldn't make sense, because if you're hanging out with Yoda, odds are you're gonna, have an idea of the Force and be somewhat of a believer. Whereas, when we meet him in A New Hope, he's very skeptical, he doesn't believe in the Force, that kind of thing. So yeah, while it would have been cool, it wouldn't really have made sense with the Han Solo we meet in Episode 4. With Han Solo removed, Palpatine became the character who would send Obi-Wan to Utapau. This would remove Anakin's closest Jedi ally from the picture, just as the Jedi Order is on the cusp of collapse, leaving his key chess piece with nobody to turn to on the other side. This later evolved again, with Palpatine recommending Anakin go to Utapau, only for the Jedi Council to reject Palpatine's suggestion and send Obi-Wan. Different path, same outcome, as it's not just removing Kenobi from the picture, but now it actively fuels Anakin's growing resentment toward the Jedi, with them not trusting Anakin with the task. In at number 3, we have a Federation cruiser crashing into the Jedi Temple. Concept artist Ryan Church designed a scene where a cruiser would crash outside the Jedi Temple during the Battle of Coruscant. His thoughts for the scene were that the ship is coming in to destroy the Jedi Temple, and all the Jedi would work together to somehow use the Force to push it away. While this scene doesn't add much to the story itself, it would have been visually spectacular, and really highlighted a time in which the Jedi were at the peak of their powers, from a certain point of view. For number 2, we have Sidious telling Anakin that he arranged for his conception, and then later on what he told Anakin about Padme's death. This one is a 2-parter, both involving information Sidious gives Anakin and how those moments were altered. First, after Anakin cuts off Mace Windu's hand and Order 66 is issued, Darth Sidious seduces Anakin to the dark side with the promise of power to save Padme from death. And he makes the following revelation: "I arranged for your conception. I used the power of the Force to will the midichlorians to start the cell division that created you." Anakin doesn't believe him. But you know it's true. When you clear your mind, you will sense the truth. You could almost think of me as your father. We know this to not be true, as the wills of midichlorians were solely responsible for his birth. But this conversation does mirror Vader's reveal as Luke's father, with Luke not believing him, and Vader imploring him to search his feelings. He knows it to be true. This scene was removed and replaced with,
"Did you ever hear the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise?"
Here, Palpatine tells Anakin about Darth Plagueis and how he could save life forms from death, which was essentially dangling bait in front of a fish. Palpatine informs him this is not a power achievable through the Jedi. I much prefer the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise, as it twists and corrupts Anakin that much more. We see this internal struggle play out beautifully in the scene switching between Anakin in the Jedi Council chambers and Padme in her apartment. Anakin becomes convinced he needs Palpatine to save her, making his decision to intervene against Mace Windu far more believable. Now remember, I said this one was a two-parter. Originally, when Darth Vader asks about Padme, Sidious tells him, "I'm afraid she was killed by a Jedi. She is no longer our concern." Sure, this would have instilled even more hate in the Jedi for Vader, not that he needed much more reason, but they would have also been nearly wiped out by Order 66. This wouldn't have been nearly as effective as the line in the final cut where Sidious tells Vader, "It seems in your anger, you killed her." This is a line that keeps him buried in the suit for a long, long time. The self-loathing and hatred instilled within himself because of that one line change is massive for how we as an audience understand Vader's psyche. Padme was the last person to offer him a way back with no judgment, just compassion and love. He is devoid of any real hope until Luke comes along. Special mention number 1, Yoda in a mud mask. Before we get to number 1, a couple of special mentions. This one does absolutely nothing for the story, I just find it both hilarious and kinda terrifying. On Kashyyyk, after Order 66, we see Scout Walkers searching for Yoda at night. At one point, they come across a catamaran covered with dead Wookiees before continuing their search. In earlier drafts, this scene was scripted as them finding a dead Wookiee in a catamaran, before a crazy little creature covered in mud surprises the clones, distracts them with a Jedi mind trick, and Chewbacca dispatches them. This is Aaron McBride's concept art for Yoda disguising himself with mud. I'm not sure whether to laugh or be scared, but I can only imagine how much of a jump scare that would have been for the clones searching for him. Now we've got a second special mention, which is two small ones, so we'll call this a special mention. But we've got Plo Koon's lightsaber and a Wookiee Jedi. These are just two pieces of really cool concept art. They don't really add a lot to the story, but I found them cool, so I figured someone else out there probably would too. Speaking of Wookiees, they are probably my favourite species in Star Wars. I strongly believe a hug from a Wookiee can heal generational trauma, unless you are a Trandoshan or a Stormtrooper. When addressing the status of the Clone Wars in this movie, additional Jedi designs were required, and Derek Thompson suggested a Wookiee Jedi. I'd love to see more Wookiee Jedi out there. They are incredibly physical characters who would perfectly embody the feel of a protector. Shout out to Gunji, by the way. The second one was this concept of Plo Koon wielding a two-pronged lightsaber, also designed by Derek Thompson. George Lucas approved his outfit, but not the lightsaber. The way it goes on his hand, he'd almost be like a two-pronged Wolverine. In at number 1, we have Obi-Wan seeing Qui-Gon. This moment would have taken place after Obi-Wan was shot at by his clone troopers, and he fell into the sinkhole on Utapau. Eric Tiemens conceptualized Obi-Wan's return to the surface as diving underwater to get into the large grotto chamber. It is there where Ian McCaig storyboarded a scene of Obi-Wan encountering Qui-Gon as a Force ghost. When George Lucas was shown these ideas, he said, "We never see the ghost of Qui-Gon. He's not that accomplished. He's able to retain his personality, but he's not able to become a corporeal ghost." Obviously, that is something that got ignored in the Kenobi series, but it was cool to see Liam Neeson back as live-action Qui-Gon Jinn all those years later. My only reference point on what a conversation between Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon would look like at that point in the story, just after Order 66 has been issued, is in the deleted scene that still features in the novel of Yoda talking to Qui-Gon on Polis Massa. Qui-Gon's voice attempts to help Yoda absolve himself of the weight of blame he is putting on himself, before offering his help to teach Yoda the ways of retaining consciousness after death. As for what he would say to Obi-Wan, I can only assume it would be words of wisdom to help ground him and steady his focus. That is the top 5 things that ended up being about 8 things that we almost got in Revenge of the Sith, based on material in the Star Wars archives. That also brings our top 5 journey through the prequels to an end. I hope you guys enjoyed watching them as much as I did creating them. Who knows, you might have even learned something you didn't know before. Until next time, may the Force be with you, always.